I didn't have the footage, I would have thought this whole experience was a fever dream. Or wait, was I on drugs? No, it definitely happened. So this is a story of an unlikely friendship, one between me and a prehistoric looking bird. I spent 30 days living on a conservation camp in the middle of the Kalahari, right in the heart of Botswana. I was literally in the middle of nowhere. So at the time of my visit, it was just me, a man who hugs a lion, and his lovely girlfriend and her blind, epileptic caracal named Caramel, who was a rescue. That was a tongue twister to say. Aside from that, there was a plethora of other animals that kind of wandered in and out of camp, and some of them would come by first thing in the morning, wake us up at the crack of dawn, and others would come by, visit us for dinner, steal some scraps, hang out for a little bit, and then wander off into the darkness. Some of them also just kind of hung around throughout the day, like this guy. But one of the most special of our visitors was one who kind of made camp her home, and her name is Bounty. Oh, no. After my arrival to the camp, Bounty and I, oddly enough, became kind of inseparable. I mean, it was just, really I was traveling solo, so it was really just me, and occasionally I would hang out with the camp hosts. But it was just me, and weirdly, we kind of found companionship in each other. And it's funny because I kind of always imagine myself like really bonding with something like, say, a dog. Never in a million years a semi-wild ostrich, but here we are telling the story and showing the videos that actually happened. So, like I said, for the next 30 days, it was just me and Bounty hanging out. She would wake me up at the crack of dawn right at my tent. She would join me for morning coffee. We would spend the days and afternoons. She would join me going on a run, having snacks together, going on walks, exploring, all kinds of random stuff. It was kind of like I had a cute, friendly little dog, but it was actually a giant, very Jurassic-looking bird. And it really was a surreal experience, but I could see like how, I don't know, without the videos, I would think I just made the whole thing up. So I'm glad I take a lot of photos and videos of everything. But like given where we were in the middle of the African bush, and that itself was just like magical and so dreamy looking. And then to top it off with me hanging out with an ostrich, it really made me, feel like it was out of this world, surreal. And I'm gonna get into where Bounty came from. How did she end up at the camp? How did the camp find Bounty? So the camp I was staying at, like I said, was a wildlife conservation camp called Modisa. I was there as a volunteer. So for Bounty and her siblings, the camp acquired them shortly after their parents and their other siblings had run off, leaving them behind. And Bounty, her brother, and I think her sister Twix, yes, they were named after candy bars, were a few of the weakest of the brood, and so the owner of the camp decided to take them in and raise them so that they had a chance of survival, basically. The last thing he wanted was for them to just succumb to the African bush. He thought maybe he could help them by raising them. And again, I'm going to caution this, as this was a conservation camp. This man is a scientist, he's trained, he knows what he's doing, etc., etc. He didn't just randomly do this. Anyway, so they raised the chicks with the intent of keeping them wild. And so they fed them and nurtured them, and they basically have free reign to run and go and meet their mates and generally live out their lives as now healthy ostriches, now that they're grown up and stuff. So that was the intent, and that's basically what happened. I think Twix, she, when she kind of went off on her own and had a family of her own, and every now and then the camp host will see her wandering around with her little babies, and she's happy living her ostrich life. Mars, on the other hand, who is this magnificent fellow,
you're beautiful, and you know
it. He likes to call camp his home, I think. He definitely wanders off and disappears for long periods of time, but he always kind of comes back. And he is definitely a ladies' man. But he's always kind of out looking for his ladies, and he does come to camp every now and then, struts his stuff, and acts like he owns the place. And definitely bosses Bounty around, kind of like a big brother would. Kind of chases her off, and she'll disappear for a while as well when he's around, because they don't get along, sibling rivalry, I guess, right? But she'll come back eventually, she comes around. But for the most part, mostly just Bounty and Mars kind of popping in and out.
No.
But that's basically their story. They were raised with the intent of staying wild, being as wild as they possibly can. Like I said, there's no fences, so they can come and go as they please, and they do. But they do like the comforts of home, I guess. Well, it's either that, or they're just crackheads for cracked corn. You be the judge. And so you're probably wondering, like Bounty, how did I end up at the camp? And I'm gonna do another video kind of detailing how I found the camp, because it was kind of a fun story. So we'll share that later on in a different video. But for now, I came to the camp as a volunteer. I just fell in love with the absolute wildness of this camp. It's totally unreal. It was a lot of fun, just a super unique experience, and the hosts were really great and very interesting people, and I was super grateful for them, and just like meeting all the different animals that came in and out and interacting with them, and just kind of like living cohesive, is that the right word? Living having a brain fart. We'll come back to that word. Living together in this camp wild space. I don't know what I'm saying. Living together in this wild space, coexisting, cohabitating with these wild animals was just a wild experience. I remember one night I would wake up and the moonlight just like it illuminates everything, and I would wake up and I would hear this like snorting licking sound, and I look out the window and there's this beautiful magical looking oryx hanging out like 10 feet from my tent, licking on a salt lick that we had out there. And again, it just looked so surreal, like these beautiful mythical looking animals just like glistening in the moonlight like right outside my tent. It was unreal. One time I stepped out of the bathroom after the sun had gone down, it was dark, and I heard a licking sound, so I had my little torch or flashlight, depending on what part of the world you're from, and I shined it towards that where I heard the sound, and it was a leopard drinking out of these little troughs that we have around, and she was, I'm not even kidding, like, again, maybe like at best 10 feet away from me, and I very slowly, very as quietly as I could, with my eyes on her, backed away back into the safety of the camp. So yeah, visited by leopards. We saw their tracks all throughout the kitchen one morning. We had a mama leopard and a baby leopard. It was quite a fantastic experience. It's just kind of funny, like, I was traveling solo and, spending this time here at this camp where there's not a lot of people coming in and out. So it was just funny how me and this giant bird kind of bonded in such a, it's just so bizarre. And maybe we just both needed each other at the same time. Maybe she was looking for companionship. I mean, we're both kind of socially awkward. I know I am, and maybe she's like the socially awkward version of an ostrich. And her life was very different from all of the other ostriches that live around the camp. So maybe she just found some kind of solace hanging out with humans for a little bit. And we both, birds are meeting. and we both, yeah, and you know, so we both kind of needed each other at the time that we needed each other. The cool thing about Bounty, however, is that I think she did finally leave the camp, and she did finally have babies. She was spotted a couple months ago with a whole trail of little bounties following her behind her. So super cool story that she finally did make it out, because we were all kind of worried that maybe she was just like, I don't know, honestly they were thinking she could have been stunted in her head somehow, because she was not like other ostriches. Like I said, her brother and sister all kind of ran off, started families, even though her brother kind of hangs around, but he goes off for long periods of time. Bounty was always kind of hanging there. But yeah, she finally did go off, and she finally did meet a man. And she finally did start a little family. So she's out there living her life. So yeah, there's hope for Bounty. There's hope for everyone else. Anyway.
Oh, go!